Welcome to Wheelock's Latin, Chapter 9. In this chapter, we're going to learn about pronouns. So first question, what is a pronoun? Let's look at an example. The teacher likes cookies. She eats them every day. In the first sentence, teacher and cookies are both nouns. In the second sentence, she and them are pronouns. Pronouns are used in place of nouns. So she is used in place of teacher, and them is used in place of cookies. A pronoun reflects, and by that I mean matches, the gender and number of the noun that it replaces. So because teacher is singular and is referring to a woman, the proper pronoun to replace it in the next sentence is she. Cookies are plural, and in English there is no gender applied to cookies. The proper pronoun to replace it need only be plural, them. Pronouns take their case from their function in their own sentence. So in the first sentence, teacher is subject, cookies is object. In English, the nouns do not have any declension endings. The form of the noun does not change based on how it's being used in the sentence. So the teacher likes cookies or cookies like the teacher, no change to the noun. In the second sentence, we do actually have some differences based on subject case or object case for pronouns. So she is the subject case as opposed to her, the object case. Them is the object case. The subject case of that particular pronoun is they. So we have to choose she, the subject case, and them, the object case for this sentence. So we call the noun that the pronoun refers back to is called the antecedent. So teacher is the antecedent of she, and cookies is the antecedent of them. In Latin, we will find that the pronoun agrees with its antecedent in gender and number, just like in English, and it takes its case from its function in its own clause, just like in English. Okay, so this chapter specifically looks at demonstrative pronouns. So question is, what is a demonstrative pronoun? We're actually going to skip over the most basic pronouns for now, which are called the personal pronouns. That's how you say I, you, he, she, and it. We'll learn those in a later chapter. For now, we're focusing on demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative means point. So it's from the Latin demonstro, demonstrare, to point. Demonstrative pronouns point to things relatively near or far from the speaker. By this, we just mean that the pronouns are this and that. So hic, haec, hoc points to something relatively close to the speaker, so this guy. It's exactly equivalent to the English word this. The dictionary entry for the pronouns is the masculine nominative singular, comma, feminine nominative singular, comma, neuter nominative singular, meaning this. Ille, illa, illud points to something further from the speaker, which is exactly the English equivalent of the word that. And then iste, ista, istud is also that, but has a negative connotation. So ille, the one with the positive or neutral connotation, would be like to refer to Alexander the Great. You could just say ille Alexander, that Alexander. In this case, a positive connotation, but it can also have a neutral connotation. If you wanted to say that dirty, rotten scoundrel, you could just use iste. So iste tyrannos, that dirty tyrant. The book gives the translation that of yours, but you have to imagine someone saying that with disdain. That tyrant of yours. Dun dun dun. Okay, so next up, let's look at the declension of the demonstrative pronouns. They're mostly like 2-1-2 adjectives, but major differences include the genitive singular is going to be ius, and the dative singular is a long I, which actually is borrowed from the third declension. The other major difference is in hic, haec, hoc, it has a C at the end of many of the forms. The C has actually been added on to a word that declines more or less properly. It's called the deictic C, and I will spell that for you in class someday. But the C is actually making an even more pointing word out of the already pointing word. So hic, haec, hoc, and then ille, illa, illud, no C's. Notice the D at the neuter. and este, esta, estud, again the D for the neuter singular. All of them have the IUS in the genitive. It's a short I for huius, 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 and a long I for Elias and Istius. All of them have the I in the dative, but notice for hic, haec, hoc, the C has returned. So hic, haec, hoc, huius, 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 huic, huic, huic. Ili, ili, ili. Isti, isti, isti. And then we resume what looks more or less like a 2-1-2, but of course, sadly, there's a C in the versions of hic, haec, hoc. You'll recall that all over the time, across the board, every time ever, the neuter accusative is identical to the neuter nominative. So hoc and hoc. You can see the N and the N in the masculine and the feminine accusative singular, which is equivalent to the M that you know and love, is placed before that final C. For the other two, it looks more like you expect, illum and illam, and then of course the neuter is identical to the nominative, illud. So istum, istam, and then the neuter is identical to the nominative, istud. For the ablative, there is the characteristic long O and long A in hoc, hac, hoc, but of course that C is back. For the ille, illa, illud, it looks more like you'd expect. Illo, illa, illo, isto, ista, isto. In the plural, fortunately the C is going to disappear. We see it in he, hi, hike, and then it will go away. Hooray! Horum, harum, horum, hees, 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 hos, has, hike. Notice again that the neuter plural accusative is identical to the neuter nominative accusative. Then hees, hees, hees. For ille, illa, illud is exactly as you'd expect from a 2-1-2 adjective. Same for iste, ista, istud. So pay attention to where the C shows up in hic, haec, hoc, the fact that the genitive singular ends in IUS and the dative singular ends in long I. I highly recommend that you chant to yourself these paradigms over and over again. Write them out as many times as you can. That's it for now. I lied. Here's another slide. So along the same pattern of mostly a 2-1-2 adjective, but the genitive in IUS and the dative in long I is a handful of 9 special adjectives. So for example, we'll use solus, sola, solum, which means alone, and alias, alia, aliud. Notice that aliud has the same D that we saw in illud and istud. That means other or another. They both have the IUS in the genitive, the I in the dative singular, and then everything is as you'd expect from a 2-1-2. For other, another, one special thing to notice is that they, in order to not confuse with alias, the masculine nominative singular, they've changed the stem for the genitive singular. So we use alter, then IUS. That is purely so that you don't confuse it with alias, the masculine nominative singular. Then back to the stem ali with the dative ending, singular ending in I, and then everything looks like a 2-1-2. So the 9 adjectives that follow this pattern are unus a which means one, nullus a which means none or no, olus a which means any, solus a which means alone or sole, neuter, neutra, neutrum, which means neither of two, alias, alia, aliud, other or another, uter, utra, utram, each of two, totus a means entirely or total, whole, and then alter, altera, alterum, which means the other of two. You'll notice that the genitive of this one is where we borrowed the genitive of alias, alia, aliud. Now, I swear for real, we are done. See you next time.